What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got a video for you guys today that a lot of you have been asking for. That's right, the Monobo is back. The beam swapped Biturbo is back. We've got it back at the shop and we've been doing a lot of work to it, and we're gonna get into that in this video. So for those of you that don't remember our old videos on this car, this is a 1984 Maserati Biturbo. This car was the first production car that was sold twin turbocharged to the masses, but the car was plagued with a lot of engine problems from the factory. We decided to correct the engine problems with this car by swapping it with an engine from the most well-known, reliable manufacturer in the world, Toyota. This car now has a turbocharged 3S GE Beams engine out of the Altezza from Japan. If you guys are interested in seeing the rest of this build, we've got a bunch of other videos for you guys to watch that I'll have in the rest of this playlist. Without further ado, let's get into the rest of today's video, which we're going to be starting the suspension updates on this car, starting with the wheels. So we just got the shipment for the wheels. You guys can see right here. Came all the way from England. This is Comp Motive. They are a R5 tribute wheel. And let's get this thing unboxed and see what they look like. Things open, and I opened it upside down. Yay! Okay, just pretend I opened it like this originally and not upside down. So that is the wheel there. I like it. It's pretty light actually too when I picked it up to flip it over. So like I said, this is a Renault R5 tribute wheel, and Steven went with a white. They only had two colors available, white and gray. And he felt a little bit ballsy, so we went with white and see how it looks. Now that we've got the wheel unboxed, Martin is actually going to do a little bit of test fitting and kind of see how to mount it properly, because Steven doesn't want to actually modify or even really roll these factory fenders, and wants, you know, a certain amount of camber. He doesn't want too much, not too little, so it's really all about how Martin mounts it with the diff and everything else included to get it to fit properly. And there is a small chance that we might end up actually modifying these wheels a little bit to change the offset to our own preferred offset. And there is a little bit of material on the back side that we can do that if necessary, but we're going to go ahead and test fit and see how it looks. So why is it that the actual offset of the wheel matters for the camber of the actual back?
So this car is very unique in a way that by changing the half subframe angle, you can actually change camber. So it's really important for me to figure this out with the wheel offset and the right size tire, and to get the right camber at right height. So I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do. So I think a lot of people that lower their cars do the same thing when they're trying to figure out the wheel offset. Well, we got the wheel, we got the blank wheel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna undo the coilover. Just take the coilover out. Put the new wheel on and raise the suspension up. Since we don't have the coilovers, we can just raise the suspension up to where static ride height gonna be, you know, at the end. And then I'm gonna play around with the subframe tilt angle to get the camber that I want and see how much room we have. Is this about the right height?
Probably something like that.
A little gap, maybe, or?
Martin's getting out his camber gauge. So this will actually tell us what the camber is currently at. So
with this ride height.
we're thinking right now with this ride height, so we're measuring, you know, the tire like you saw, and assuming about a 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch gap from the tire to the actual fender lip.
Right now we're at 0.5 degree negative camber.
Okay, so that's kind of, like we said, it's kind of like the bottom end of where we want.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between that and 1 degree, like Martin said. So,
And then, say this tire, it's about 3.5. So we're probably gonna lower it more.
There you go. That's cool.
Now that you guys saw how we tested it without the tire, and we kind of sort of simulated how much subframe tilt that I'm going to implement into the diff slash subframe, and it looks pretty promising that it's going to fit and maybe achieve that 0.5 to 1 degree negative camber without modifying the fender. So our next step is to mount the tire, and then we're gonna do the same kind of simulation and have my customer come in and tell me exactly what kind of ride height he desired to run.
1 hour later.
we are here at Martin's garage. You can see S14, RX-7, and Martin, like I said, has a tire changer. So, go ahead and get this wheel and tire mounted up. You can actually kind of see this is kind of a little bit what Martin was hoping for, which is actually that the tire actually bulges a little bit past the actual wheel. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but we are going to be running, so these are 225 50/15s in the back, and the front is the same size rim, but a 205 tire. So they do bulge a little bit in the back, which will give it kind of a little bit of meaty kind of race look, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, we'll take it back to the shop and see how it fits. We've got the wheel now mounted on with the tire.
This is without the subframe tilt. It's at 2.5 degrees. But we're gonna go.
Yeah, but I mean, if anything, the car is going to be about there in height. That's about where it needs to be.
Really? This high?
Yeah, about maybe a touch.
The kid's like a hot boy.
There you go.
Remember I was telling you how I'm gonna set the diff and that? And this is pretty much like the max. Is this okay? This is 1 degree there.
I don't think I need anything crazy.
Yeah.
1 degree,
Yeah.
1.5.
But
Steven showed up and talked to Martin a bit about his wheels. And Steven seems to be pretty happy with his wheel choice.
yeah.
And so we'll show you guys. This is basically the placement that we're going to have here.
so I think we're gonna go like a little bit lower, but because of it being on the lift and all that, I can't go. It's kind of
too low right now. So
so
you can see
it's sitting at 0.5, and it may go to like 1 degree when we lower it another ½ inch or so.
well, you can see, like we were saying, up in here, the jack right now is holding the actual subframe and tilting it up, so that changes the actual camber. So we tested it, and when you get rid of the tilt that we've added and you go back to the factory placement, it's about -2 degrees camber. So doing that tilt gets us all the way back to about 1 to 0.5. And Steven seems to be happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and Martin's going to mount the actual diff, which I'll show you guys real quick. So this is the diff we are using. It is a BMW M3 diff. Martin has already made the actual bracketry here to mount it, but didn't, like I said, couldn't fully mount it to the subframe until we had the wheel placement figured out. So now that he's got that figured out, we're gonna go ahead and mount this system, and we'll go from there.
Factory differential actually came on top of this subframe and it bolted to the subframe right here. Where the drive shaft used to meet was all the way out here. With the BMW diff that we're putting in, the end plate is right here. So I needed to make a notch section right here. So before I did that, I'm basically adding this 1/4 inch really thick, this little angle bar, which I'm going to tack weld in place, hoping that this subframe won't warp when I weld and gusseted this subframe.
So I left a bit early last night to do a couple of errands for the shop, and while I was gone, Martin decided to get a whole bunch done on this thing. So let's see what Martin did since I left. One of the most important things that Martin did here, you can see, is this gusseting job here. Because of the experience that Steve has with this car, we know that this subframe is going to crack. It's not very well made. And again, if you guys know this car tends to be in the top 20 worst cars of all time, and this is one of the reasons. So Martin did a whole bunch of gusseting work here on the front. There was already a couple of cracks that had developed. And then he also finished the job of making space for the actual drive shaft. But I don't know exactly what's going on here with the actual tubing here. So what's going on with that?
I'm getting ready to finalize the subframe and the diff mount. And as you can see, I had to set these adjustable things up so I can change the angle, the tilt of the subframe and the diff in conjunction with the drive shaft. And the drive shaft also is very critical in how the angles are and how you can mount them. So I kind of had to make a temporarily drive shaft, as you can see. And this is a 2.75 tubing. So I need to basically stay under that. Basically, I'm going to tell my drive shaft guy to make it with 2.75 tubing because that seemed to clear everything and seemed to work good. My last task on this subframe job is to mate this mount with the subframe with the correct tilt, which we figured out the other day with the wheel and the right tire and all that. So I'm getting ready to tack weld this place in. And when I'm happy with all the tack welds, I'm gonna pull this diff out and go ahead and finish my brace or whatever you wanna call it.
Martin's got the actual diff and the subframe reinstalled on the car with all of his gusseting done. Now that you've got that done, what is the next step to get this project finished up?
So last thing I need to worry about is making sure the shaft angle on the transmission needs to match the diff angle. Basically, you can have it offsetted like this, but last thing you want to do is change the angle like this because that puts strain on the drive shaft. And I think it looks like it's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this front part of the diff mount, which is on this BMW. It's just a singular 16 millimeter bolt right here. So it's a pretty big fat bolt, but I'm going to have to make a pretty substantial, strong, point that I can mount this to.
So Martin finished up the last of the diff mounting, and I went ahead and took it out of the car one last time, fully painted it black. Let me know what you guys think of the finished up rear subframe. With that done, we went ahead and cleaned up. These are the factory Maserati half shafts, and bought some brand new bolts and got these fully installed, and we got the wheels on, and everything's looking good.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
We got the car on the ground for the first time with all 4 of its new R5 Tribute wheels on the car. Let me know what you guys think.